it's not a red card. Do they know the law? Manchester United have got a strong case for an appeal. They need someone there that actually knows the law. Howe has got to sort this out. Arsenal were lucky they got away with one there. It was a clear second yellow card.
Bruno Fernandes was shown a straight red card for brushing his foot down the side of James Maddison's leg just a day after the Arsenal conspiracy theorists convinced the PGMOL on Man City's payroll were mysteriously quiet after Riccardo Calafiori somehow escaped a blatant second yellow card, and a foul on Jamie Vardy in the build-up to the Gunners' opener was also ignored by Sam Barrett. And to look at these decisions and many more, we are joined on episode 6 of The Whistleblower by SunSport columnist and former Premier League referee Mark Halsey. And Mark is not scared of upsetting supporters, players, referees or the PGMOL. He just says it how it is, and that's exactly what fans have been crying out for. In this episode, we'll cover the Fernandes red at Old Trafford, Arsenal getting away with not one but 2 decisions as they squeaked past Leicester, and further controversies at St James's Park, Goodison Park, the City Ground and at Brentford. But Mark, there's only of course one place to start this week at Old Trafford. Bruno Fernandes sent off during that 3-0 thumping win by Tottenham against Manchester United. Chris Kavanagh, the ref here, Peter Banks, the VAR. 42 minutes in, Bruno Fernandes slips as he's going to tackle Maddison, stretches his leg out, and the outside of his boot collides with Maddison's shin pad, and he goes down. And that's somehow a red card. What did you make of that?
Yeah, morning, Will. Yeah, it was a tough one for Chris Kavanagh because in real time it did look a poor challenge. So we cannot be critical of Chris in that situation. When I saw the challenge again, I thought straight away it's not a red card. If we look at the law for serious foul play, a tackle or challenge that endangers the safety of an opponent with excessive force or brutality must be sanctioned as serious foul play.
Yeah.
Whether it challenges lunges from the front, the side, the back, it must be sanctioned as a red card. Now that, for me, that challenge didn't meet the criteria of serious foul play. What you can be critical of is VAR, because when you look at it again and you see it again, the challenge doesn't meet the criteria. He slips, and it's the back of his heel that goes down his shin pad, the side of his shin pad. So, but for me, when VAR look at that and they confirm the decision, I'm looking at it and I think, hang on, do they know the law? So, in my opinion, I think it was a wrongful dismissal. Had VAR afforded Chris Kavanagh another look, so recommended a review, then I'm sure that Chris would have changed his mind and Bruno Fernandes would not have been sent off from the field of play. So I believe that Manchester United have got a strong case for an appeal, and they should do that.
Yeah, and it's one of those as well, Mark. You've spoken on the Whistleblower this season, haven't you, about the need for referees and VARs to intervene when it's a clear and obvious error. In this incident, and especially if you compare it to the Mateo Kovacic challenge on Sandro Tonali at Newcastle, that was studs midway up Tonali's leg, connecting on the outside with much more force, and that was given a yellow card. It's consistency you've talked about before, and also in such big games, referees not wanting to have a negative impact and managing tolerance levels. The game was over after that decision as well, wasn't it?
Absolutely, but that's the IFAB protocol. They look at red cards and you can upgrade them from a yellow to a red. You can downgrade a red to a yellow. Now that's what should have happened here. So again, we've got to look. Howard Webber's got to look at his training and education. And another thing that really, annoys me is the nonsense that comes out from the matchday centre, regarding the challenge. They need someone there that actually knows the law. And the law is clear on serious foul play. And that was not a serious foul play that endangered the player's safety with excessive force and brutality. So for me, VAR should have looked at that and recommended a review. And as I say, once Chris had gone and looked at that, had a review got recommended, then he would have changed the decision. And we're looking at decisions over the weekend as well. And I'm sure we'll come on to the Crystal Palace penalty, the second penalty that Newcastle would have had. It's just so many inconsistencies. And Howard's got to sort this out.
Yeah. I mean, that was the one that did it for me. When you're watching the highlights across the weekend, you look at the Kovacic tackle on Tonali, which is not necessarily deliberate, but certainly one that if you showed anyone in the street those two tackles and said one of these was a red card, I mean, Fernandes, his challenge on Maddison, or the Kovacic-Tonali one, they said one of these is a red card, one of them's a yellow, anyone's going, surely it's the Kovacic one.
Yeah, I mean, listen, with those sort of challenges, referees have got to decide whether it's careless, free kick, nothing else, reckless, free kick and a yellow card, or a challenge that endangers the player's safety with excessive force or brutality must be sanctioned with a red card.
Yeah.
And as I said, the Fernandes challenge didn't meet that criteria.
So
the one at Newcastle, Man City with Kovacic, it's subjective, isn't it?
Arsenal, Mark, the conspiracy theorists have been out in force the last couple of weeks in North London with all sorts of ridiculous claims about referees being on payrolls, etc., etc., and in the pocket of Manchester City. But they're mysteriously quiet after their 4-2 win over Leicester at the weekend. Referee Sam Barrett, the VAR Paul Tierney, Steve Cooper, the Leicester boss afterwards, said it was a clear foul on Jamie Vardy in the build-up to Arsenal's opener, and Calafiori has got to be sent off. There's so much we could say and so much more the whole game knows. So we'll go one incident at a time. The Jamie Vardy one, first of all. William Saliba seems to tug back Jamie Vardy as Leicester are breaking down the pitch. Vardy throws his arms up in the air, no foul given, and then within a minute, Gabriel Martinelli's up the other end and scores Arsenal's opener 20 minutes in. Vardy and Steve Cooper were both booked for gesticulating and moaning about that after no free kick was given to Leicester. What do you make of it?
Yeah, listen, we can look at all challenges on the field, couldn't we? Listen, some days it's given, some days it's not. Again, it's subjective, isn't it?
Yeah, but what do you think, Mark? Come on.
Sorry?
What do you think? You know, I'm not letting you get away with subjective every week.
Listen, you could argue it is a foul. As I say, some days they're given, some days they're not. And it's the match day referee didn't think it was a foul. So we move on. Yeah, you could argue it was a foul and it should have been given. And remember, VAR can go back to have a look at that passage of play. So if they feel that the referee's made a clear and obvious error, they can get involved in that situation because it led straight to the goal, didn't it?
Yeah. Do you think that's what it was then? Perhaps VAR didn't get involved because they thought not a clear and obvious error there, a subjective one, and that's the referee hasn't given a foul, so we'll go with the on-field decision?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, that's what we want to see, don't we? That's what we want to see. We don't want VAR getting involved in everything because football is a contact sport.
Yeah, we're not too much re-refereeing of games is what you've spoken about before, and I totally agree with you. Right, the big one in this game, though, Mark, Riccardo Calafiori. He got a first yellow card for dragging back Facundo Buonanotte on 49 minutes in when the Leicester man was breaking into the Arsenal half in dangerous fashion. Then a blatant trip on him as he broke a second time on 70 minutes. Calafiori looked nervous. No second yellow awarded. Instead, it was actually Buonanotte, rightfully so, for waving an imaginary yellow card. But that would have left Arsenal playing the last 20 minutes plus stoppage time with 10 men. What did you think of it when you saw it?
Yeah, listen, I think Steve Cooper's got every right to feel aggrieved. When I was watching the game live, and I thought straight away Calafiori's in trouble. I knew he'd been already cautioned. And you can tell by a player when he starts running away. He's running away to try and get away from the referee. Hopefully he doesn't see him. But for me, I think it was a clear second yellow card. He clearly denied a promising attack because the Leicester forward, he was away. So I think, Arsenal were lucky they got away with one there.
So for any fans wondering, Mark, Sam Barrett, obviously the on-field ref, Paul Tierney, the VAR, is there, because it would have been a second yellow rather than a straight red, could Tierney have got involved then?
No, VAR, as the IFB protocol, cannot get involved in yellow cards, even on a second yellow card. Sam was involved in controversy at West Ham last week with the tug back on Somerville, and obviously he's involved this week. Yep. But he's a good young referee, and hopefully he will learn from his mistakes. Listen, we all make mistakes. We're human. So, but on this occasion, I think it was a.
Why do you think he hasn't given it?
It was an easy second yellow card to give.
Yeah. Why do you think he hasn't? Do you think there would have been anything from what you've seen which would explain why he hasn't?
I mean, well, you can look at it. He thought perhaps it was a careless challenge. He most probably looked around to see if there was any defenders. But once you make that challenge and you foul a player, the whole picture is different because it goes on a second and then players are in different positions.
Yeah.
So perhaps it looked to him that it wasn't denying a promising attack, but it certainly was, and I'm sure Sam will learn from that.
Yeah, fair enough. Right, a couple of big decisions in Newcastle 1, Manchester City 1 at St James's Park. Great result for Eddie Howe and his men. Referee Jared Gillett, VAR Stuart Atwell. The first one I want to touch is the penalty. This was a penalty to Newcastle, which Anthony Gordon won and scored. He's through on goal, nicks the ball past Ederson, and then he goes down under what was very, very minimal contact. If you slow the replay right down, you see his trailing right foot just about made contact with Ederson's glove. Even Alan Shearer, Newcastle legend, says that he didn't think it was a penalty. What did you make of that one?
Yeah, I thought when I saw it, I have to say I thought it was a penalty. When a player puts the ball past the goalkeeper and the goalkeeper comes rushing out as they do and goes to ground, and if there's any sort of contact, there's a penalty is always going to be given, and I expected the penalty to be given. There wasn't too many complaints. Listen, it's one of those. It's some will say perhaps it wasn't, and a lot will say it was. So it's subjective. So VAR, I'm not going to get involved in that situation. For me, there is contact, and I don't think that Manchester City could have any complaints.
Is that enough then? But the contact, we know there was contact, but are we not trying to move towards sort of, contact, but like it having to be enough to make someone go down, or a little bit more meaningful contact, perhaps?
I think we've got to forget about this high bar. I mean, when you're going at pace, any little bit of contact will make you go to ground.
Especially if you leave your leg trailing there for the goalkeeper to clip it.
Yeah, I mean, some will say, did Anthony Gordon sort of initiate the contact? But it's very difficult to tell in those situations, isn't it? So, I think that he was always going to give a penalty, and VAR were never going to overturn that. And I thought it was the correct decision.
Fair enough. Right, Mateo Kovacic, that tackle on Sandro Tonali, as I've said, his stud's connected with like the upper ankle and the outside of Tonali's leg. It looked like a bit of a grim one. And I think last season, if you'd have seen someone get sent off for that, no one would have really been too surprised. It was mistimed and, wouldn't have done any favours to Tonali's ankle. And then when you look at what Fernandes was sent off for at Old Trafford, as we've already covered briefly, what did you make of that tackle in particular?
Yeah, it's one of those, isn't it? I mean, if the referee sends him off, again, VAR won't get involved because it is subjective. So as I said before,
the studs are connected with his ankle. Like that's surely one of those ones that is less subjective.
Listen, look, the referee in those situations has got to decide: is it reckless, or is it a challenge that endangers the player's safety? That's what he's got to look at. Obviously, we don't want to see too much intervention from VAR, but when there's a clear and obvious error, that's when we want to see VAR get involved. Now, as we say, this was subjective, wasn't it? This was subjective. So, listen.
But I agree.
Had he sent him off?
Go on, sorry.
Had he sent him off, then I don't think there'd be any complaints.
I agree, but look, if you look at the two, right, and the wording in the laws, like you said, endangering the safety of the opponent, I'll tell you what. One thing is for sure, Sandro Tonali, his safety was in much more danger than James Maddison's was. Surely you can agree with that during the Fernandes tackle.
Yeah, you could argue that challenge was far worse than the one from Bruno Fernandes.
Yeah, there you go. When you say you could argue, what you mean is it was loads worse. Listen, right, Everton 2, Crystal Palace 1. Big relief for Sean Dyche, getting off the mark this season at Goodison. Andy Madley referee in this game, Graham Scott, the VAR. Now, the incident in question was James Tarkowski's tackle on Crystal Palace's Jean-Philippe Mateta. Palace were 1-0 up at this stage in the first half. Tarkowski did get the ball first, but he followed through, it appeared, with both of his legs and wiped out both legs of Mateta. Nothing given initially by the on-field referee. And then VAR checked and stuck with that decision. What are your thoughts?
I'm amazed. I'm amazed that that Andy Malley didn't give the penalty in the first place, because for me, when I saw it, it's a nailed-on penalty for me. And that's what VAR is there for, to help the referee when he's made a clear and obvious error. And I just don't understand why VAR have not got involved and recommended a review for that, because for me, that was absolutely nailed-on penalty for Crystal Palace.
What was it about it then that you saw? Because some people say, oh, he got the ball. We've spoke about this on the Whistleblower before, that isn't always a defence anymore. What was it about it that you thought was so nailed on?
How many times do we see instances where they say he's got the ball, but he's got the man as well? Yes, he's got the man, he's got the ball, he's just got a touch on the ball, and then he's just followed through and just come into the back of the Crystal Palace forward. Yeah. It's a clear penalty. And how many times do we see the match day centre come out and say, yeah, he got the ball, but he got the man as well?
Yeah.
And we see that all the time. So, as I say, for me, that's a clear penalty. And again, we've got to look at the training and education of VR, when to get involved, when not to get involved. I think they're just so confused. They're confused.
Yeah, it's that consistency issue, like you said, isn't there? There's like clear and obvious errors being ignored and no interventions. And
Absolutely.
then other interventions when there isn't a clear and obvious error, and there's more subjective ones, like you say. Right, Mark, penalties at Fulham v Nottingham Forest. 1-0 it was to Fulham at the City Ground. Raul Jimenez just about scoring the penalty in that game. But as well as the one that was awarded, there was a couple that weren't. Nuno Espirito Santo, Nottingham Forest manager, afterwards said, I think the referees need some peace and to do their work. But there were incidents that were not well reviewed, but we can't do anything. We can just hope that the referees do their job. Josh Smith was the on-field ref, John Brooks the VAR in this game. So we'll just break through one by one. Murillo, it was Forest defender, rakes his studs down Pereira's Achilles for the penalty. It wasn't awarded, then VAR intervened, and it was awarded. Raul Jimenez scores it. Are you in agreement that was pretty shut and dry?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it'd be difficult for Josh to see that incident, and I think that's a clear error. I mean, when he's raked his studs, and there was a little push, but it's the studs down the back of Achilles. That can be very painful.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's correct that VAR intervened and recommended a review.
Good use of VAR there.
Yeah, it is. But what you've got to say is that for me, that it was more of a penalty when you look at the Palace one. You look at the VAR getting involved in that, but then you look at the one at Everton with Palace. You got to ask your question: well, why has he not got involved in that one? As we go back, it's so much inconsistency.
Yeah, sure. Right, another penalty in this game. Then Calvin Bassey, Fulham defender, later on in the game, sweeps Anthony Elanga's legs from underneath him. No penalty awarded, and then VAR stuck with that decision. The replays clearly show Elanga got his foot between Bassey's and the ball as Bassey's making a sweeping motion with his leg. He swipes Elanga's feet from underneath him, he goes down. Nothing given. No wonder Nuno was annoyed about that, in my opinion.
Well, I'm going to say one word: consistency.
But regardless of that, is it a right or wrong decision?
Consistency within that game. If VAR getting involved in the penalty for Fulham, okay, then VAR got to get involved and recommend a review for the one for Nottingham Forest.
Yeah,
on Balassi.
Yeah.
So it's consistency within that 90 minutes on that game, and that's what you want to see, and that's what we didn't get. So yeah. I don't think Fulham could have had any complaints had a penalty been given to Nottingham Forest for that incident.
Quite agree. And then Murillo again, he'd already given away the first penalty, shoved Kenny Tete over as he was making his way into the Nottingham Forest box. Nothing given on that. VAR, I think, had a look and deemed that the contact wasn't sufficient enough, which is also why I'm interested that they can say that about that, yet that doesn't apply, apparently, in the Anthony Gordon situation.
Well, again, we go down to the consistency. I mean, again, had it been given, players run the risk when they use their arms and they shove players. So you could also argue that had the penalty been given, Fulham couldn't have complained.
Yeah. That's 2 wrong decisions, 1 correct then by the sounds of it in that game. Mark, right, look, I'm going to have to use my platform here to get something of my own agenda across. Simon Hooper, right, I was at Brentford on Saturday. West Ham won, Brentford won. Last on match of the day, hardly a classic, right? One thing that really got on my nerves, Simon Hooper awards West Ham a corner right at the death of the game, in literally like the 6th minute of stoppage time, blows the whistle, awards the corner. West Ham are setting up to take it, and then he blows the final whistle without letting them do so. Explain that to me, because it was infuriating.
Listen, referees, you've got to use a little bit of common sense. If he's going to blow the whistle, then blow the whistle as soon as it goes out of play.
Yeah.
Don't blow the whistle. Once he's put the ball for the corner,
just teasing
then take
everyone.
The corner. As soon as it comes out of the box, blow your whistle. But blow your whistle as soon as the ball goes out of play. Common sense. Why create yourselves problems?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I just left a really sour taste in the mouth at the end. But yeah, you're right.
I mean, what we've got to think. I mean, referees can referee with common sense. It's the leadership and direction that comes from the PGMOL management. That's what we've got to sort out, because we have got big problems.
Right, Mark, brilliant. Once again, that is it for episode 6 of The Whistleblower with ex-Premier League referee and SunSport columnist Mark Halsey. Mark is not scared of upsetting the PGMOL referees or supporters. He just says it how it is, which is exactly what fans have been crying out for. Thanks for watching episode 6. Make sure you follow The Sun Football across all our social media platforms to make sure you never miss a clip. And make sure, of course, you're subscribed to SunSport on YouTube to make sure you never miss a full episode of The Whistleblower.